Breaking news now at 8, a new pro-Palestinian protest taking place at UCLA. I'm Mark Brown.
I'm Ellen Leva. This is a special edition of Eyewitness News at 8 o'clock. Demonstrators have set up an encampment and police with riot gear are now making arrests. This is Air 7 capturing moments ago just this violent struggle between officers and protesters. These officers surrounded the gathering, boxing them into that hedge area, and then began detaining and cuffing people. At least a dozen that we've seen being detained by officers, LAPD officers on the scene, assisting with maintaining that perimeter and keeping those skirmishes to a minimum.
This protest began outside Royce Hall, which should be a familiar spot to those of you who have been following this series of protests at UCLA on the campus there. There'd been an encampment there that had set up for several weeks, and then that was cleared a few weeks ago. Since then, the UC police have been very quick to pounce on any sort of effort to build a new encampment. It appeared one was about to spring up there. And so, but these protesters were moved. They moved from outside of Royce Hall to a center courtyard area of Moore Hall, and they had set up barricades around the area, and that is when UC police officers, along with the highway patrol, moved in to arrest people. There were, as you can see, some difficulty in bringing those people into custody, and some fights, some scuffles broke out involving police and the people who they were trying to arrest. And earlier video here, a security guard being treated for injuries that he suffered during some of this scuffling and efforts to arrest people. That guard appeared to be in good condition, stable condition, but and here seemingly telling investigators what happened and how it happened.
And we have been keeping a very close eye on this protest at UCLA.
Eyewitness News reporter Jory Rand on the ground in Westwood with more on the altercations tonight. Jory.
Yeah, it is a tense scene here. We are on the south side of Dodd Hall. This is actually the third location that these demonstrators have taken over since we have been here several hours ago. They started outside Royce Hall, then went outside Moore Hall after there was an order to disperse. They then barricaded themselves outside Moore Hall. It looked like they were going to be there for the long haul, but then moved once again, marched back across campus. Outside Dodd Hall, there's a quad inside here. Now, just right about 8 o'clock, police in tactical gear moved into that area. They had sealed off all the entrances and exits, and it looks like there's a bit of a bottleneck inside there. So the police went in on the far side. We're on the north side from where we are, and moved through that quad. That's where Air 7 HD was seeing those scuffles of moving in. So we are now on the south side, where there was a large group of demonstrators who didn't make it into this quad before police sealed it off. There was a race across campus. The demonstrators started marching. The police had to remove themselves from Moore Hall, run across the campus, and try and get here before the demonstrators got here. Some of them made it into that quad. They barricaded themselves back in, and now police moved in once again. There are chants out here right now of intifada. That is an uprising in the past against Israel, and that's what these demonstrators, many of them affiliated with UCLA in some way or another, are calling for here. But police lines are thick. These are security guards you're seeing here. We actually saw those CHP officers you mentioned. There is a large police LAPD presence, and of course the front lines, which you see here, are just security guards trying to keep people from breaking through these lines. We did see one young woman arrested. We are told that she was actually trying to leave this demonstration, but we're not sure exactly what the police plan is, whether they're going to arrest everyone who is still inside that quad, refusing to leave. But these demonstrators are fortified. They marched barricades across the campus. They had rolls of chicken wire to try and keep these police officers out of this area, and they marched it all across. They were catered. They were fortified with food. We saw hot food being moved in, crates of water, as they were trying to make sure that they stayed in this position for as long as they could. But every time an order to disperse was announced, they would pack their things up and start marching back across campus. And you can see, once again, demonstrators are blocking our camera. At one point, one of the demonstrators inside was shining a laser at our helicopter at the Air 7 HD, which is a big federal crime that is much more serious than what we're seeing here on the ground. But again, things have calmed down here a little bit, but still rather tense. We're not sure exactly what's going on, but at one point, these demonstrators were so desperate to escape and not get arrested, they were crawling through bushes, long hedgerows, in the middle of them to try and get out of this without being taken by officers. There is a definite anti-police sentiment among these demonstrators. In the early going, when things were kind of calm outside Royce Hall, about let's say 6 o'clock, I think it was, there were some counter demonstrators, or just a couple of students who had Israeli flags on, and they were kind of getting into shouting arguments with some of the pro-Palestinian demonstrators. And then all of a sudden, everyone went away. It was almost like someone flipped a switch and they dispersed. Where there was tension, where there were arguments, all of a sudden nobody was left. That led us to our second location, and that was about 6:45. They broke that up, and now here we are in a bit of a standoff again outside of Dodd Hall with these demonstrators, and we will continue to follow it and see what happens. But right on the other side of that hedgerow, I don't know if you can see a shot in there, that is where that quad is, and the hedgerow is blocking our view from inside, but there are rows of police and there are demonstrators still inside there. We're waiting to see what happens and how this comes to a head, but right now things are quiet other than the demonstrators out here. Police activity has calmed down and they are just waiting to see what the next move is. So we'll continue to watch this, and we'll check back in a bit, guys.
Yeah, Jory, bears mentioning too, this is finals week. Finals week has begun actually today at UCLA. That may be part of the impetus to try to make sure that students can gain access to all parts of the campus and that they can keep, frankly, keep the noise down so people study. But what we're seeing here is, again, people voicing their opinions and desires that Israel stop its incursion into Rafah and beyond, and of course the counter demonstrators, such as they were, demanding the release of all hostages held by Hamas. All of this happening since October 7th, when Hamas attacked a concert and other locations in Israel and murdered some 1,300 people. Israel's response has been very violent as well, some 30,000 or more having been killed as Israel has fought back against Hamas.